Hello again, everyone. Today we will be learning about functions, and functions are really useful to make your code more reusable and more readable. So instead of writing the same block of code several times, you can just write it in one block of code that is generic, and you can reuse it several times from different places if you have different files of code. So let's start with something really simple and create a function that just says hi. So how you define a function is just saying def, which stands for define, and then the name of the function, which can be anything you want. I'm gonna just name it say hi, and then we'll make two brackets. The brackets here, you can put arguments or parameters, and we're gonna see that in a second, but for now, I'm not gonna ask for any parameters, I'm not gonna ask for any input. I'm just gonna say that whenever you use this function, you're gonna print hi, alright? So, simple as that. If you run your code like this, nothing's going to happen, right? Nothing happens. And after you define a function, you actually have to call the function. So you have to say hi. And now your code would run. So if you run the code, say hi, it runs. And it goes here and then sees what should I do, and it says hi. Okay? Now, let's define another function that says hi to my name. So, def, which I'm defining a new function, and greet me, for example, okay? But this time, I want to take an input, right? So I'm going to take an input of name, right? And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to print hi, and that's a string, so it has to be between quotations, and then that name that was inserted, okay? So again, if you actually run this code, nothing's going to happen. That's because you have to actually call the function, right? So greet me. And here we have to input a parameter called name. So I'm going to input my name. And we want to see in a second what happens if you don't actually add something. And so, hi Mustafa. What it did was it got an input called name. It just passed it here, and then it said hi name. Alright? And if you don't put anything, it's going to throw you an error because, yeah, it's an error because it's missing one required argument, which is name. You have to pass something here, right? And that was my name. Okay, so let's make things a little more difficult and define a function that adds whatever two numbers that are input to it. So def, and then I call it add, and I'm going to take an x and a y, and then whatever the x and I get and whatever the y I'm going to get, I'm going to print the sum of x plus y, right? So if I call add and then I pass 2 and 4, that's 6. So you might ask yourself, why is this useful? Now, think of, for example, building a calculator, like a program for a calculator. How would you actually take whatever input that the user, like any input that the user would put, and then add these two numbers together? Normally, without functions, you would have to handle each single case. If, I don't know, 2 and 4, just add 2 plus 4. But with functions, it's much more dynamic because you can get any two things and just do an operation. You can actually make def and then mult and then x and y and then print x multiplied by y. Alright? And that's just going to do the exact same thing. If you pass two numbers, 5 and 6, that's a dot, not a comma, and it's going to return 30. Alright, so 6 from here, you're adding 2 plus 4, and then 5 and 6. Now let's make it much more dynamic and actually make the user input the numbers, so we don't have to actually put 2 and 4. So we can actually say, let's make this a bit more organized. So for now, let's just do it on the add, and it's the same concept, right? So x and y, we want to get two values, x and y. So x is going to be equal input, and y is going to be equal to input. What is input again? It's just asking the user to input something. Please enter a number. Please enter another number. Alright? However, this is not going to work Because by default, whenever you input something, it's going to assume that it's a string, that it's a word, and it's not going to treat it as an integer or a number. So to do this, you're going to just say input something, whatever it is, and then convert it into an integer, right? Sorry. And we're going to do the same thing here. And then we're going to pass these two numbers into the add function, and the add function is going to be responsible for adding these two numbers and printing them. So let's run this code. So first of all, it's asking me to enter a number. I'm going to say, I don't know, 9, and it's asking me for another number. I'm going to put 7. So 9 is input, and then it's converted into an integer, because right now, without the int, it's just a word. Okay, so computers can actually understand 9 in two different contexts, as if it's a word in a sentence, and as if it's an actual number, a mathematical number. So you're taking 9 and then you're converting it into an actual number. Same here with y. You're taking the 7 and then you're converting it into an integer, and then you're passing both numbers to the add function, which takes the responsibility. And by the way, this x and this y are different than this x and this y. These can be anything. This can be a and b, but then you have to change these to a and b as well, right? Variables can be named literally anything. And yeah, so basically 9 and 7 are going to be passed to 9 and 7, and then you're going to print 9 plus 7, and that's it. If I try something else, 10 and 20, that's going to be 30. And now you see how the application is much more dynamic, and we actually made the first part of an actual calculator. And if you want to train your what you've learned in practice, you can actually implement a subtraction function, a multiplication function, and a division function with the same way. And now you would have a simple calculator coded just by you and dynamic for any number out there. So that was it for functions. There are much more to functions. There is something called built-in functions that we're going to cover in the next video. So see you in the next one.